My podcast about sports, about sports, about sports.
Howdy, Ags. From the tailgate home of Aggie Football. I got Par with me today. Philip, how's it going, man?
What's up, my man?
Dude, I am
Oh, another
so psyched.
day. Another day.
So psyched about this Maroon and White game. I got lots to say, man. Lots to say. Before we get started,
Do you? That's
episode
good.
brought to you
That's
by
good.
Frida Homes, building Aggie dreams, custom home builders with over 15 years of experience in the Brazos Valley. If you're looking for someone that cares about you and the details you care about, contact Frida Homes. Visit or call Justin at 979-450-4466. When you call, just remember, everyone loves their Frida Homes. All right. Clearly, today's topic is the Maroon and White game. What we've all been waiting for this spring. And now we've seen it. We've seen it. I've gone back, watched it again and again. Anyway, so we got lots to talk about there. Just a quick Aggie baseball note. 35-5 on the season, 13-5 in conference. Ranked number 1 in the country, my friend. What do you think?
Oh, it's great. It's great. In fact, you wanted to have this podcast right now, and we're playing baseball right now. So a little, breaking news. We're down 3-0, and they already got to our leadoff pitcher. But
the starting pitcher, but that's okay.
I mean, I said leadoff pitcher. Yeah, starting pitcher. But the interesting thing with this team, like having a 3-0 start doesn't really worry me.
No.
No. If you're leading this team 3-0 in the 8th, you should be very, very, very concerned. So
you could be up 8-0.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, the bats will come.
It's just incredible over the last 2 weeks, right? A sweep over number 6 Vandy, take 2 out of 3 from number 12 Bama. The Vandy sweep was ridiculous, right? I mean, it was 15-0, 9-0, and then 9-6 or something. Overall, 36-6, they outscored Vandy. I mean, that's just insane. That's 2 straight shutouts of the number 6 team in the country.
Didn't see that coming. Honestly, did not see that coming. I think, maybe Vandy had some off time, but we were just on. We've been on.
Yeah.
It's just we're a really good team, Alejo. I don't like it when we're ranked number 1, just because I have that that Aggie syndrome where I'm always worried about it. But this team is damn good.
Look, and here's the thing to me, right? And look, over the next couple of weekends, Georgia, LSU, right? This conference doesn't have any time off, right? You don't get a weekend off here in the SEC. Baseball is even more intense than football, basketball, or any other sport, right? With baseball, this is the premier conference in the sense that half of the top 25 at least is SEC teams, right? This is crazy. And Georgia's got a player that I think leads the nation in home runs or something. LSU, we know that they're, very respected program and have tons of talent over the next 2 weekends. So that's going to be part of it. I was looking at the conference standings, and even though we're number 1 in the country, we're not number 1 in the SEC West. We're still behind Arkansas in the SEC West, and that's okay because we got that last series in the regular season against Arkansas. But
how crazy
within a game, right?
Yeah, it's all going to be decided that last weekend, right before the SEC tournament. I mean, that's a scary team too.
Yeah,
that's a scary team.
Listen, they're number 2 in the country, right? It's not like there's some slouches over there, right? And the key here for the Aggies, though, if they want to be able to go to and win an SEC regular season championship, they've got to stay within a game of Arkansas, right? Because it's unlikely that you're going to get a sweep out of that deal, right? You can't expect a sweep.
No.
So, great stuff. I'll tell you a guy that we've mentioned before, but I wanted to mention Cortez. I think has been doing a phenomenal job. He's getting better and better, as the season goes along. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take on a starter's role at some point in the season. The way he's improved, man. I mean, I've been pretty impressed with him. He's got the best stuff, just stuff on the staff, right? Well, I think we've got a frozen Phillip right now. And so I'm just going to continue talking. Moving on from baseball, moving over to football. Billy, I don't know if you know this, but you were frozen for the last couple of minutes. So
Yeah, my power went out. My apologies.
We're good, man. You know me.
All right, good.
I never shut up, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what you talked about, but it's probably baseball still. I'm guessing you were still on baseball.
I did want to get a little something on baseball because I know a lot of the Aggies have an MLB team that they root for. Everybody should know that I'm an Astros fan, huge Astros fan. Phil, you're an Astros fan. You live in the Houston area, support the Houston Astros. The Astros suck. The Astros freaking suck. And let me tell you this. The strength of this team was supposed to be that like 7, 8, 9 bullpen role with Abreu, with Presley, and with the new acquisition in Hader, the big offseason acquisition. Look, Presley can't pitch worth a it, and Hader is almost as bad. I mean, that dude doesn't go out there without giving up a run. I like Abreu, and Abreu's been fine, and he had one rough outing early, and he's gotten into his flow. But I'm telling you, if we got to depend on Presley and Hader the rest of the season to close, they've got to do a lot to come, to get us comfortable there, because right now this team can't win a game, because the day that the offense scores some, the bullpen gives up a ton of runs. The day that they don't score, then they lose. So when they don't pitch well, they can't score. When they pitch well in the starters, then all of a sudden the bullpen gives it up. I mean, it's been hard to watch.
It's been some ugly baseball, man. It's been some ugly baseball.
I got one question for you, Philip. Why in the world is Jose Abreu still starting at first base? Why is a guy hitting like 070 still starting at first base? And not only that, the other day he had an error that cost us the game. So, I mean, why is he in there? Let's move on. We've got other players that can step into that spot. You can put the Bond there as a first baseman. We've got a guy in AAA that you can bring on up and give him a shot. He's bound to hit better than 070. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. He struggled last year, and I don't know. I really would have thought some of these things would have.
Yep, they probably would have. Probably would have. All right, so off the Astros, just a little side note there. We're going to move to football. First things first, we're in the portal window for the spring portal. The Aggies have already added linebacker from Pitt and Solomon DeShields, tight end Shane Calhoun from East Carolina. We know that there's a few guys that are leaving, guys like Matthews at safety who declared earlier, McCall at cornerback who declared earlier. You still got one of the Graham, the offensive lineman that transferred in, as well as I'm missing somebody there. None of those pieces, look, I'm a big Matthews guy. I think everybody knows that. Everybody has heard me rave about how well he was playing. I think he's a loss, but we've got lots of depth at the defensive backfield now, which was evident in the Maroon White Game. So I'm not overly concerned. Everybody else that's been on that list is not going to be a starter on this team. It looks like we've lost Phil for a while. We're going to continue on. Today, the news came out that look, Bryce Foster's no longer on this roster. We'll see what that exactly means, but it looks like, he's not going to be playing for the Aggies. We added the center from Utah just recently in the portal, so that's another big step. We're trying to get a couple of wide receivers to add to that mix. Hopefully we can close out on it. Penn State guy, University of Houston guy. But on top of Bryce Foster, it seems to be that Taylor is also going to be moving on, as well as Hinton, one of the transfer offensive linemen that was rumored to be taking some reps at center as well. Looks like he's off the roster as well. So there's still some movement happening. We've got about a week left in the transfer with the portal window open. We'll see what happens over the next week as far as Aggies and sort of guys that are leaving. I wouldn't expect that any guys that are in competition to start on this team would leave, but there are some guys that potentially could, and we'll talk actually about that later on. So portal window, they've been active. Elko's clearly doing his due diligence with regards to, the different players that are out there, and trying to make sure to get some of those guys in at the positions that he feels like we need some depth. We're already above the scholarship number, so the 85. So there is going to be a little bit of attrition there, especially because we still have some freshman guys that we're adding to that number. So let's move on to the Maroon and White game, and let's start here. Look, Maroon team, which was drafted by Trey Zune, beats the White team drafted by Torian York. The score was 24 for the Maroon squad, 10 for the Whites. A few guys didn't play, just so that you're aware of some of the guys that weren't on the roster. So Donovan Green, we know, is still nursing an injury. Shamar Stewart, is sitting there. He's got a little something going on. Tyreek Chappelle didn't play. I think he's well solidified in what he's doing. Ricks nursing a little injury. Trey Jones nursing a little injury. Trey Watson, Cam Newberry, Rylan Kennedy, all guys that had little nicks and stuff, and so none of those guys played, right? Now,
let me ask you about that. I missed some of what. I'm back, by the way.
Bill's back.
I'm back. Yeah. So, what they're saying is that it's going to be, and you may have already hit up. Did you already hit on Nic Scourton?
On Scourton? No, not yet.
Okay. So, which I'm really, Shamar Stewart and Nic Scourton, I mean, that could be, that's what they're, man, I don't know. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, no, and look, we'll talk about sort of some of the superlatives in this game. I wanted to start, because I thought it was interesting once I saw the rosters, right? Drafted by Trey Zune, drafted by Torian York. And as I don't guess much of a surprise, Zune, the offensive tackle, drafted offense first. York, the defensive linebacker, drafted defense first. Now, after seeing the result, clearly Zune had the better approach to this draft, because not only did he pick up basically the first team offensive line, which was a key here, but he also drafted Nic Scourton early. So he's like, okay, I'm going to focus on offense, but first I'm going to get what I think is the best defensive player on this team in Nic Scourton, and then I'm going to focus on offense, and I'm going to take the offensive line, I'm going to take all the starting receivers, and I'm going to take Le'Veon Moss, who's the best running back here, right? And that team looked amazing.
I'm trying to figure out what York was thinking.
Well,
I guess he took Connor first.
You can tell York's idea was, hey, look, I'm going to get Connor, who's the quarterback, right? I'm going to get Connor, and who's the quarterback, and then I'm going to draft defense, right? I'm going to get the starting linebackers. I'm going to get the starting DBs. I'm going to get the starting D line. Problem is, he didn't get Scourton one, and that there's not that much difference between the first group and second group in the defensive backs from what I could tell. They both played pretty well.
Yeah.
You know? While on the other hand, there's a huge difference between the first group offensive line and the second group offensive line. I think that's where the discrepancy came in, right?
Yeah, I mean, the receivers obviously played a part in it, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I that's where I'm having a hard. It's hard to evaluate like Connor because he definitely was playing with like I don't want to call him third stringers, but I mean it wasn't the same. I mean it wasn't a starting offense there. It was a hodgepodge to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're going to get real in depth in some of the players and stuff. I wanted to touch on. I thought it was interesting the draft strategies here and how they played out, right? I thought that was pretty cool. But then I also wanted to touch on the scheme that we kind of saw, some of the things that we saw from just schematically, right? Before we get into player specifics, let's talk about what we saw schematically a little bit and start offensively because, you know, we had an idea of what the defense was going to look like, obviously, with Elko and his background here. So offensively, it was sort of all new, right? It was all new. We didn't really know what to expect yet. We had an idea from his time at Kansas State, but, you know, this is at A&M. What was going to be the same? What was going to change? What was he going to show? What do you think about sort of just schematically, offensively? What it look like?
Man, so obviously, like they just had spring, so I think that there'll be more motions and more movement going forward. And you know, the last time we talked, I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to have that much expectation. Maybe I had a little more expectation for the offense to be a little more explosive. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, honestly. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't explosive to me, but it was better than Jimbo.
We'll sort of go on the two squads here in a minute, especially when we start getting into the individual players. But you're right. I mean, well, you know, with the white team and Connor, you know, they did look, a couple of things that I really liked and I enjoyed seeing, right? One, they did have some motion. They liked that the wide receiver jet motion with a fake to it, and they handed it off a couple of times to Thomas, right? Like at least once. And so there was some motion involved in it. Additionally, if you watched, they did a number of misdirection plays, right? Where they were faking, including one of those jet sweeps where they faked it and came back underneath or faked it and had some sort of play action or something off of it, right? So they were doing some misdirection type things. They had some runs also that showed some misdirection. I like the fact that they did a lot. They ran some zone scheme, but they ran a lot of down and pull schemes as well, gap type schemes. A couple of sweeps where they got guys pulling out in front on the outside. A couple of gap plays where you could see that the running backs in the past had been taught to bounce a lot of things. Now you could see them cutting things back and creating holes in the seams back that way. I thought the interior of the offensive line was a key on that. But different things of that nature I thought were great as far as scheme-wise. I also remember the pass by Connor got hit and it ended up, you know, just falling to the ground, but he was going deep.
Yeah, was he going to Cyrus there?
Huh?
Was he throwing it to Cyrus?
Once Nic Scourton got to him. Right, he came hard inside. I think Nic Scourton came hard inside and bumped his arm as he was trying to throw, so he couldn't get anything on the throw, and it ended up just dropping to the ground. But that was a slant and go. It was a double move. And why do I bring that up? Because that is something we haven't seen in Aggie land in 6 years, right? Yeah. So that was looking for a big play from scheme, right? There was a couple of other rub routes that we saw that got guys open, and there was the one on the boot where Thomas came across the formation and went into the flats, right? And he completed it, and then he got up the field and did some nice things. Like, there was some scheming to try to get guys open without them having to be the best player on the field, right? To me, I enjoyed seeing that. So I did like it. You're right. There's still, they held back. They held back. They weren't
Yeah.
wide open, right? But there were some concepts, some different things that I like. Some good. Connor had a good couple of good throws in the RPO game as well, right?
Yeah.
Boom, and then hit the slant. What's the last time you saw the Aggies run and throw a slant route? I mean, they didn't do it very much over at all. In this one
Okay.
game, I mean, he threw 3 or 4 of them that probably should have been caught. So I was really impressed with that. I enjoyed seeing some of the little schematic things offensively that created openings that we haven't seen in the past. Defensively, kind of knew what we were going to see, right? Elko is, consistent 4-man pressure though. That was good. Didn't
Yeah.
show not a lot of 3-man stuff. The blitzing was there. He brought the safety Ratcliffe one time. He brought some linebackers a couple of times. Those types of things. Lots of slanting and pinching with the defensive line, right? To get into gaps and do those types of things. Scourton and Stewart both made plays in those areas. I will say where some of it did hurt us, and you could see it schematically on the offense, was, with some of the pinching that they had with the defensive ends, they were able to get some good runs on the outside, right? On the edge. The
Right.
safeties couldn't get there to support on the
Yeah.
outside. The linebackers weren't scraping over the top to get there. And so they had some pretty big runs just on the edges, pulling a guy out on the edge, a little sweep action, and boom, off to the races, right? Where it was 8-10 yards.
Yeah. And sometimes you're going to get that when you go really, really aggressive on the ends, where either they pinch in and they go out, or they over pursue, right, and come in, and they're not containing right there. But I'm with the defense. I'm actually less worried after watching some of it. To your point, the 3 down. I like that they're teaching Scourton how to be in a 3-point stance, right? So that tells me like, hey, look, we're not going to be doing as much like silly drop back. I mean, like they're gonna. It seems like he wants to get after it. That's the feeling.
280 pounds. That's one of the things. The guy's a big dude, right?
Yeah,
he's a big dude, but
he's a beast,
right?
Yeah,
the spin moves, but we'll get to that. And the other thing with regards to that, and schematically specifically, is that they didn't exactly scheme the defense, to make sure to cover up some of these things. So you can't overreact to that kind of thing. But I'll tell you, don't think for a second that Notre Dame in week 1 isn't going to try to exploit any sort of deficiencies with the alignment, especially if you're pinching as much as they showed this past Saturday, because those safeties weren't able to get there. The linebackers weren't able to get there. And, last year, our sideline to sideline guy was Cooper, right? York is more of an in-the-box, downhill kind of guy, right? For those outside lanes, you're going to have that nickel. You're going to have that strong safety. You're going to have that weak side linebacker that are going to get to those plays. And if they don't improve in that area, and if they don't start scheming towards that, there is going to be a problem, because teams will exploit it. I don't think that this is an issue today, but we'll find out week 1.
Yeah, we were missing some people back there too that I think could have made some difference too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. I mean, there's players, and like I said, they'll scheme to the opponent a lot more in the fall for sure. So let's talk about some of these players. And look, the talk of the town has been the guy you've been wanting to talk about this whole time, Nic Scourton, right? And let me tell you, dude, that nobody that watched this game does not agree with you, right? Everybody that saw this game agrees with you wholeheartedly, dude. This guy's going to be a difference maker. He's going to be the best player on this defense. I love what he brings to this team. You can tell the intensity that he plays with and all those things. Everybody's also raving about.
You're saying he's going to be better than York? Your boy York? He's going to be better than your boy York?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
York's the leader. York's the leader.
Okay.
But as far as production and the better player, it's Nic Scourton. There's no question. It's not even close. Look,
Yeah,
and
I
Thomas,
agree,
the
obviously.
receiver, made some big plays, right? Everybody's been talking about him. I'm going to let you get your Nic Scourton off.
I mean, the guy's a
But right
beast. I
before
told
you do that, I'm going to
Yeah.
give. I want to mention one guy, and I'll get into this a little bit more with him.
Yeah.
But the guy that impressed me the most on Saturday is Marcel Reed.
I knew it was coming. I knew that was
Marcel
coming.
Reed was absolutely fabulous, man. And he used and abused that defense on the other side, my friend. I was so impressed. I'm going to get into Marcel Reed with more detail, but I'm going to let you go because you've been itching to just go Nic Scourton.
No, man. And by the way, Reed was great. But yeah, I'm excited for Scourton. I'm excited if Shamar gets healthy and we have those on the ends. We can cause chaos on the defense, and that's where we've been good in the past. And I mean, I think that's where we can really expose some of these teams, right? So especially when these guys start to gel. But my only concern is they haven't all played together a whole lot yet. But most of these people have quite a bit of time playing college football. Maybe not the SEC, which there's a difference there, right? But at the end of the day, we got some experienced guys that are in here that are dogs. They seem like dogs to me. And if he really just brings the intensity there and brings the heat, doesn't try to do anything too tricky, Scourton will be, I'm thinking, like a Von Miller type. I mean, I don't know that you'd ever get a replica of Von Miller, but that's kind of he could be that kind of guy.
Yeah, and they're different. They're different, right? They're different guys.
Yeah.
Von Miller was definitely a rush, like speed, athleticism guy. And don't get me wrong, Scourton's good at that. But to me, what impressed me so much, just looking at him physically, right? The dude is a lot bigger than you thought. And hold on, let me give a little shout out. He's from your hometown.
Oh yeah.
He's from Bryan, Texas.
Yes, he is.
Phil Rosser, Mr. Bryan, Texas, one of your folk.
He is. Yep.
Super cool. Obviously, he's basically a local Aggie, right? He should have been here all along. Anyway.
Yeah.
My point is that, you just look at the dude, and he's just a beast, right? He's thick. The guy just looks like a prototypical defensive end, strong side defensive end. He looks the part. And then you see him actually play. And he plays with incredible leverage and strength. You can see that. He was at times bum rushing these guys and just pushing these linemen right back into the quarterback, right? Just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And even better, he'd come off of that move and do that little quick spin move and just absolutely annihilate the offensive lineman, dude, and be right into the pressure. I was impressed, man. I was super impressed. The guy, he looks pro ready. To me, he's going to be that added dimension for this defense on a down in, down out basis. And everything you hear about him right now is how hard he works and the fact that he wants to be a leader there too. He's been here for a couple months, man. He's already making that difference, right? Just incredible.
Well, and if he's a disruptor, which he seems like he's going to be, then every team we play with or play against, they have to have a plan for him. And if you have to make a plan for him, guess what? That takes away from your time to scheme against other things, because now you have to focus on, okay, we gotta figure out some things to slow this guy down. So it just it's just great for us, I think. It's still, we're early in the year. But if things go as well, like it looks like it's going to be, this guy's it's going to be great.
And the other thing that he brings is versatility, right? Because he's a guy that with his size and strength, he can move inside and outside. And you combine him with Shamar Stewart, who had a good game the other day. Everybody's raving a lot about Shamar Stewart. He's a guy that's got good strength, also can come in. He's not a pure speed edge rusher by any means, right? He's more of also a strong side defensive end, less of just a pure rusher. But he's another guy that can move in and out depending on downs, right? But you got him and Shamar Stewart. You got Shamar Turner, who didn't play on Saturday, who I think is going to be an absolute beast on the inside for this defense. DJ Hicks looked incredible Saturday. I thought he has progressed in 1,000 times from last year as a freshman, just getting used to the college game. His body's better filled out. He's more ready to play this game. He's going to be the big Hawaiian Samu is taking up, room inside in the rotation, so there, and Albert Regis had a pretty nice game himself, right? Rodis Johnson, the Wisconsin transfer, look unbelievable, man. He made some nice plays. He's not at that level of Nic Scourton and Shamar, but he's going to be a real nice other piece in that rotation. And we haven't even talked about the pure rushers in Kennedy, Malik Silla, right? These guys are Nye White that are going to be able to come off the edge and create pressure on downs. You can move some of those other guys inside.
Did Silla play?
Silla did not play.
Oh, okay. I was like, man, I don't remember seeing him at all. So that explains why.
Yeah, he was not in there. So, but this is defensive line. These are all defensive linemen, right? These are the guys we're talking about, with so many different guys that can go in there and create pressure and create mismatches and create, bad plays for the offense, just disrupt, right? Disrupt. Look, to me, that's the basis of this defense. That's got to be what this defense is all about. It's got to be about those guys in the up front. Let them go create havoc, chaos, right? Chaos, and let everybody else sort of run and play, right? Just run and play. And I think they've got enough athletes around these guys in order to do that. But I couldn't have been more impressed with what I saw from the defensive line. And that's even with the fact that there's guys in there that didn't get on the field yet.
Are you going to talk about Reed now? I mean,
no, we're going to stick with defense.
Okay.
Right? And I will say, and I'm going to go to the defensive backfield before we go to linebackers. I'm going to go to the defensive backfield. And another group I was very, very impressed with, man. You talk about, Mays, Saunders, Lee, Thomas played the other day. There's so many of these guys at cornerback, just at corner, that look good. They were playing a ton of man. Love to see that. They were up in those receivers' faces. And they created, plays at the point of contact with the football on throws, right? And they were in there batting things down, making plays at the point of contact with the ball. I couldn't have been more impressed with how they played. Did they give up some plays? Sure, especially the white defense, right?
Yeah.
They gave up some plays, but man, physicality out at the corner. They were in position to make plays, and they were aggressive using their hands and their eyes on some of the quick passing game. I was pretty pleased. What do you think about the cornerbacks?
I thought they played well. And there's still probably, I don't know, people that are projecting to be like our starting are not even, didn't even play. So the depth we have there, the size.
Chappelle who's probably going to play a lot of nickel didn't even play, right? Chappelle.
Yeah. The size, the physicality, it's a big change than what we've seen in the past on that. So I'm excited to see how they do. And then look, if they're physical and they're playing aggressive and we're causing chaos in the backfield, that's great because they only have to do that for so long. So we don't, the big plays won't happen if we're not giving them a lot of time back there. And so I don't know. I mean, to your point, they're playing a lot of man. Is that what they're going to play the whole year? I don't know, or if they did that just for the maroon and white. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the base is going to be man, right? And you could
think
tell
so?
sort of what they were doing with the safeties as well. And we can get into the safeties because I thought, Anderson had a really nice game on Saturday. Ratcliffe was okay, especially when he came into the box some, right? He's more of a physical, strong safety in the box guy.
Mhm.
Brooks had a really nice game at safety as well. He's also super athletic, man. He still
Yeah.
he still needs to get reps, right? He's still
Mhm.
young, needs more reps. That some of that instinct that you get playing deep and those types of things. He's still working and improving in those areas, right? But I think he showed incredible things out there. I think
What do you
physically
think about Kurt?
Brooks and Kurt, I think Kurt's probably a guy that ends up out of the mix here.
Really?
And he sort of played the same role as Anderson on this team on Saturday. Anderson, playing a lot more of the deep safety, right? He's kind of the over the top coverage guy.
Mhm.
And I think Kurt's probably in that role, but honestly, out of the group that I saw, I think he's probably fourth, maybe
Mm.
in the group. I don't know. And so, you know, is he going to continue to work to get into that rotation? I don't know. I think if we were to start football today, he's probably out of that rotation. He's probably
Wow. Okay.
without an injury, he's probably not getting a ton of reps. That's kind of where I saw it. Now,
Hmm.
look, maybe he didn't get tested a lot either, right? He didn't get tested a lot.
Yeah.
But like one of the things that I noticed with some of the other guys, like for example, Ratcliffe, he was aggressive in the box, but he still got to work on some angles, right? He's in a new defense. He's got to get comfortable with all those things. But that's part of
Mhm.
that, that outside run. Can he be that lane filler and all those types of things? But physically, the guy he looks like he's almost the size of a linebacker. And he's just huge. He's long. I love the way the physicality that he plays with. He's just got to get a little bit better with his angles, right? But
Yeah.
he's got the capability. And so the safeties, I was fairly pleased watching those guys play. I thought especially Anderson was super reliable. He's a guy that's been in this defense, right? And so he's got an advantage over some of the other guys. But
Mhm.
it was good to see. And this is without guys like Trey Jones who's still coming back. And so there's still a number of other guys that are still not on the field for this team. Compared to where we were at last year, remember when we played the Maroon White game with like a bunch of walk-ons in the secondary? It
Yeah.
it was good to see incredible talent, length, height, athleticism at the defensive backfield, and I think it's about as good as they've looked since in the last, however 5-6 years or whatever, right? I'm looking forward to seeing where this group continues to progress. Let's move to linebacker because this is the one area defensively that I do have some question marks for. I think Torian York is a great leader. I think he's a great leader. Hey, let me rephrase it. I know Torian York is a great leader. And I know that dude's a hard worker. And I know he's going to be in the right place at the right time, right? But physically, as much as we want to praise him, physically, he is limited physically. He is not Cooper with that sort of speed and athleticism to cover and to do all the different things sideline to sideline. He is a downhill, in the box linebacker. he will come and hit you, and he's got great instincts as far as where things are going. He's just not the best athlete on the field. Just what it is, right?
Well, I think I think you got spoiled with Coop. So I mean,
For sure.
I mean,
For sure.
and it's he's not gonna. Obviously, he's not Cooper, but I think one, I think we have a better defensive play caller back there, obviously. And I think that they'll utilize him the way that they should. I'm not York isn't where I'm worried. It's who else is going to step up.
And that's true. I'm not worried about York because I think his role is going to be exactly that, right? It's going to be that in the box linebacker that's going to take care of his area, right? That's no matter who was on the field on Saturday at the other spot, they left a little something to be desired, right? And you got a guy like Scooby Williams looks like a damn safety. He's so thin, right? Like, but he's more athletic. You got guys like the guy I guess that I was most impressed with was probably Sanford. And I thought he did some nice things, but he needs reps, right? They need to get him as many reps as possible on, from the beginning of the season. And maybe by mid-season, that dude is playing at a high level, right? But he needs the reps, as many as he can get. And because he does have some of those athletic skills and he can do some of those things. And I thought he looked pretty decent, but you can tell he's still thinking a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the linebacker spot you would expect. So being a new head coach, new defense, everything else, the one position that's going to take a little longer to figure out on defense would be what? Linebacker, because it's instinctual. You're still trying to figure out the ins and outs. Because as a linebacker, you kind of like a quarterback, you got to know what everybody's doing and when to come in and who to cover and all that. And so there's definitely more to it. So hopefully some of those guys step up and kind of and get it right.
Yeah, Lockhart, the freshman, is another guy that got some playing time, and he's a freshman, man. He just needs time to develop and do those things, right? They just brought in a new guy from Pitt. Everybody's really high on him, but he played at Pitt.
Oh yeah,
right?
Who's that kid?
He played at Pitt, so I mean, are we talking? Is he going to be the end all be all? Who knows, man? Maybe he shows up. Maybe he shows up and makes a huge difference, right? I don't expect him to be the guy. I don't expect him to be Cooper too, right? I would expect a guy like Montrell Harris to get in the mix, but he hasn't been anywhere to be seen. So I get, maybe he's not. Sanford.
Hey, that guy, that linebacker's not from Bryan, is he? Because if he's from Bryan, maybe he is.
He's not from Bryan. Then
I don't know what we're talking about.
Because if he was, he'd be in. Done. Starter now. First round pick next year, baby. So somebody's got to take that spot. The one good thing to say about it is the fact that whoever it is, they should be protected by that defensive line, right? So they should have a lot of freedom out there on the field to go sideline to sideline, whatever, and just chase down the ball, right? Make it simple on those linebackers, just like see go. Don't.
So maybe Scooby is the answer in that. If you need a sideline to sideline, right?
And look, he's an older guy. Been in the programs at Florida, under Bateman before. So like he's got some things there. So I think there's probably a lot of competition to be had this fall and in summer fall for that position specifically, right? And because there's probably four different guys that could take it, right? 4 different guys. Who knows? You know what I mean? So it'll be exciting to see who comes out of that competition come the fall. But that's the one area, the one position on this defense that, at least for Saturday, I thought we could really use a significant step up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else defensively you wanted to add to this whole thing?
man. I think we've talked about everybody. I kind of remember wanting to.
So
Hey, have we talked about Nic Scourton yet?
if we didn't talk about Nic Scourton, we should
Uh,
definitely talk about Nic Scourton. And him being from Bryan is important. And the playmaking ability is important. Yes, we talked about
okay.
Nic Scourton.
Okay, perfect. As long as we did that, yeah, we can move on to offense then.
Rodas Johnson, by the way, I wanted to throw his name out there again. We
Uh-huh.
quick little mention. I actually thought he had a really good game, so I was impressed. I'm glad he's on. I'm glad he's on Team Aggies. All right, so good piece. Look, moving on to the offense, I gave it away, right? I gave it away from the beginning. Marcel
Yeah.
Reed, to me, has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, completely doesn't expect to play in the bowl game. He's just kind of hanging out, tripped down to, wherever to go play this game. He's just there for the fun, right? He's like there for the trip and whatever. Play one or series one, freaking Jalen Henderson gets hurt, and here you go. Hand the ball to the true freshman that hasn't played a down, right? Like, and the guy just shows up. All he does is throw for 300 plus, so many, whatever many touchdowns. Like, just unbelievable. And you can watch him, and he's got such a good feel for the game. And you could see it again Saturday. Anytime there was a hint of pressure, he knew exactly where to escape, and his eyes are down the field. And man, he was delivering freaking bullets down to the wide receivers on the freaking money. Loved it. He's got it. I'm a fan of Marcel Reed. I'm not gonna lie to you. Right now, I don't know if I don't make him my starting quarterback. I don't know if I don't make him my starting quarterback. And let me back up a little bit, because Connor Wigman, look, you're right. You mentioned it earlier. You can't really evaluate him off of this performance. The offensive line in front of him was absolutely horrendous. He didn't have much time. And when he got just like a second, he made some nice throws. He still has that vision and instinct and everything that has gotten him to this point. I think he's gonna be really good for these Aggies this year. But Marcel Reed, man. Marcel Reed. There wasn't anything he didn't show in that game.
Nah, he played great. I think I'm not ready to hand him the starting position over there, LAO, but it's interesting how he shows out when he has the opportunity. So I mean, and you've been a coach before, and this kid's a little deeper in the depth chart, but every time you give that person an opportunity, they make hay with it. And at some point, it's like, okay, let's do it, right? Because you can't keep somebody that like that on the third string that long. And so my worry was, I'm like, get the man off the field right now, because I don't want people to start to talk about, hey man, you want to come play over here? I don't want him to hit the transfer portal. I'm like, shut this guy down. I don't want him. I don't want people to know about this guy at all. Right. He's good.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I like Jalen Henderson. I like
me
him.
Too.
I like him.
Yeah.
He is better than Jalen Henderson, and there's no question about it in my book. Jalen Henderson is number 3. Marcel Reed is at worst number 2. You just see I said at worst.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to pump out here.
Hey, love Connor. I've been praising, what he brings to the table as far as his field vision, his instincts, his touch, his feel for the game, how he throws the ball before the guys are breaking and just kind of gives it a little arch and when he needs to or whatever, right? He's got all those. A very, very skilled guy at the quarterback position. He's a good athlete too. You didn't get to see as much Saturday, obviously, with the foot injury and all that, the leg injury and all. He's not as good an athlete as Marcel Reed. It's not even close. And I'm not gonna lie to you. There were things in Marcel's got a better throw. He's got a better arm. He's got a better, maybe not quite as accurate, but he's got a little bit more zip behind his throws. And
Yeah, I'll give you that.
don't get me wrong, and he still has some things to develop. There was that throw over the middle. You could tell he sailed it, whatever. He's got to get more comfortable throwing inside and over the middle. You know, those slants that Connor put on the money. He's got to get comfortable with some of those, right? But man, I was just super impressed. I'm really not saying that he's going to be the starting quarterback this year, or that he should be the starting quarterback. But I'm going to tell you this: come fall, I would have him and Connor competing for one.
Really?
Competing, because it's going to make Connor better, and it's clearly going to make him better, right? So
Yeah,
that's my thoughts.
This is a good problem to have.
Huh?
This is a good problem to have, right?
It is.
I mean,
it is.
you got
And-
Connor, you got Jalen. I mean, you got Henderson, and you got. I mean, it's a good problem until one of them leaves, because somebody's going to be the odd man out here, and you know. I said it last pod. I still think Henderson's number 2.
I don't. The production doesn't say so.
No, I mean, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I can see. I see a bigger competition at 2 and 3, which I think is good for both of them. But at some point, one of those guys are probably going to go somewhere else and be pretty successful.
I hope it's Jalen Henderson.
Yeah. So,
like I said, I love Jalen Henderson. I like him. He's
Yeah.
a great. And look what he did last year and filling in and everything else, and all that stuff. I like the kid. I think he's a good quarterback. I hope that he finds a place he can play, because it ain't going to be here. Not behind Connor, not behind Marcel Reed. You can't. There's no way you can put him in front of Marcel Reed come next year, given the production that we've seen on the field. Period. In my opinion. That's just my opinion.
yeah, I mean, there's still not that much tape on Reed. So
No.
all the tape is excellent. Don't get me wrong. So, yeah.
And it's not like you gotta have, you gotta make sure that you're consistent on any base, right? And also when you want to practice, get short of your I can see, I can watch you play at 2 different games, I can't see that you kind of doing some of those things. Not showing out there as well. I need shot. Let's talk about some of the problems with Connor this Saturday, right? And not necessarily the problem, but around. So you guys do what I see. I have to get a thing from someone on the wide receivers. I think, we had some nice throws. A nice throw, and it was long, very confident, but so different times when he was ready to the ball moved down the field, ready to go, that hit one. The last time he gets the call of attack or whatever, right? And he didn't get the opportunity to any of those things. He had to put a pressure in there. I thought that wasn't the team from the right? And that was pretty good. The key is the guy that I thought that was a couple times they couldn't get the ball. I'm not necessarily worried about that and move the team, right? Very much worried about that second offense. Because those guys are getting or we got a problem. They don't talk about we saw that. You can go and look at that thing and the offense one and offense two and we had a pretty positive about the game. That's not necessarily worth it. But put it up. That would be the playing quarterback and the fact that every other snap was that fly name, right? I mean, how many times we see Connor, we know we're trying to have snaps, right? And that is the way from the time you can go into the field and all those types of things. So I thought the offensive line was the biggest problem for the white team on Saturday. That's the second move of offensive line. It's a little worse. The player is worse. But on the other side, typically the good side, and And some of this, I thought that played very, very well. Looks like we're in the middle here. So, I'm gonna finish this out, it'll be all right. But my point is that, I think it's only. Not, I'm not gonna put it really good. I'm not gonna do it at the moment, and I'm just gonna get up and not. I thought, when I know that it's really decent game, you still get it, do that on the outside.
Right? And part of that is what they did schematically wise, but they were staying on blocks, they were getting up to linebackers, and second level guys. I mean, you looked at some of those runs, that running back didn't get touched for 7, 8, 9 yards. Hell, the big run by Owens, he never got touched, right?
No, he didn't.
Super impressed with that first group offensive line, and even the second group in the running game. But, I think if we get the whole unit together, Cam Dewberry back in this mix, right? The guys that are there, the new center from Utah is going to come in and compete, I think. Man, I think you're looking at a team that's got a pretty solid foundation there at offensive line that has already gotten better from last year. They're already better than last year's team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and did we just pick up a center?
A center from Utah,
Yeah.
who, they're known for running the football and taking care of business.
Yeah.
That's attitude coming from that offensive line, right?
Yeah, I think that's good because I think there's still some holes, I think there. The other person, man, have you seen the kid he's coming from SC. They hit the transfer portal. Jason here, I gotta pull it up. Jason Zandamela.
No. Who?
So he's the top prospect right now, at least 24/7, and center. We need that guy. So
considering they already brought in the Utah guy, I don't know if they're bringing up a second one.
Go buy him for me.
Huh? I'd take him.
Oh yeah, go buy him.
Yeah. But I do. I think that the offensive line has already taken steps forward, and I think that's encouraging because they're just getting started. So I know how poorly the white team played up front. That's okay. They're the second group. They're going to continue to get better. I think by the time we hit fall, I think this offensive line is going to be better than it was last year, and it's going to continue to improve throughout the year.
So your point, there's a second group, but really the third group. I mean, right? I mean, you had people out and all that, right? So, I mean, they're third strings, third and fourth probably. So
yeah. I mean, some of those guys you'll never see on the field, right? But there is some encouragement there. And look, then we get, you get to the wide receivers, man. And I'll tell you what, Moose played great. I thought he did some things without the ball in his hand, blocking and different things that I was super, super excited about. Obviously Noah Thomas has been the talk of the town. The dude looked phenomenal, right? Making plays in the short passing game, making plays over the top. He still has to really continue to work on the high point thing. He sometimes lets that ball, like that one over the middle, right on the post where he came, kind of lets it get back into his body some. Hell, you're 6'6", man. Go up, get your hands up, go catch it at the high point. He's still got to get better.
Go get it.
But I was super impressed with him.
Yeah. I thought Cyrus did pretty decent.
Yeah.
Cyrus
Allen was good. You didn't get as much of a feel. I thought it was hard to evaluate the second group with Micah Tees there as well, the freshman Williams as well, because you couldn't get the ball out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Ja'Day Walker still has a little bit of the dropsies, right?
I know, man. That's a little worrisome.
But he's a guy that can get open. Now he's just got to get in his rhythm and do his thing. But hell, he did it last year, right? He made big plays at times and then dropped a couple here and there. I don't know who the superstar is here. I really don't. I think Moose has the potential to be a superstar with the way he makes plays. You know, athletically, maybe he's not that top end guy, but you know, just his ability to make plays makes him very dangerous. Maybe Noah Thomas is that difference maker because of his size and speed,
Well,
right? He does a little bit of everything.
I think if you just base it off the Maroon White game, then you would say he's your number one, right? I mean, of course, by the Maroon and White game, you'd say Marcel Reed's our starting QB. So I mean, you know, but like I think he looked pretty. He
Look, and
looked
he had
great.
a big game in game one last year, and then kind of faded away. Of course, injuries had to play a part.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I love Moose too. Walker, I mean, that's kind of who I thought would probably come out just because he's just a physical specimen, right? And we need somebody that like that out there.
That's a great point because physically, he's probably the guy, right? Like he's big, he's tall, he's athletic. You know, he's a little thicker than Thomas. You know, so he's a little bit more physical and all that. Even though, hey, by the way, Thomas, you could tell had a little physicality to him. He's a little bit better than last year. He's still pretty thin, right? But better than last year. So yeah, physically, I think Walker's that guy. The question is, can he be consistent, right? Look, Micah Tease looked a lot better out there. He looked more filled in, you know, and he's a speed dude, and I think he's going to have a part in this defense, on this offense. And then, you know, we're digging through the transfer portal right now for a couple of guys that are pretty that should be impact type players. So we'll see if we can do something in there. But one of the positions we haven't hit on is tight end, and there was a number of guys missing there, but there was a number of guys that played, and those guys, look. The Swede, Theo, I thought has taken a lot of strides from a guy that, you know, was way behind everybody football-wise coming from Europe. And man, physicality, he's getting a little bit more in there, right? He blocking-wise, he was able to accomplish some things. And then he made a couple of plays out there with the, you know, in the passing game. So I thought he's taken some strides forward. The guy I was really impressed with is Jaden Platt. Jaden Platt, who was a rookie last year, and you can tell he's filled out, man. He's filled out. I think he's got a chance to be an impact guy this year, too.
Well, and, you know, for those guys that we think we think are probably ahead of them on the roster were gone. Yeah. So they weren't there. So this was their time to shine. And I think, you know, I think they did okay. I wouldn't say I was like, overly impressed, probably not, but pleasantly surprised. Let me say that.
That I would agree with that. So last position, I don't think we've talked about the running backs. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Corey always makes fun of me for my guarantees. Here's my guarantee. Moss is the starting running back on this team, and he is the bell cow. I thought he was by far the better back on Saturday. And look, the second best back on Saturday was Amari Daniels, in my opinion. I think he still gets, you know, we don't give him enough credit and whatever, and I'm doing it right now, right? Saying everything I'm saying about Moss. I think Amari Daniels is a really good running back, and he's going to get some reps. I think Moss is the number one. And if you ask me, Ruben Owens is more of right now, more of a changeup, maybe get some plays in the passing game, catch the football. You know, he is not a down back yet. He ain't there. That's my opinion.
Let me ask you something on that. I don't necessarily disagree, but could he play like a Nia Smith type role? Is that kind of what you're thinking for him? Because he's got the speed.
Yeah.
He seems like he can catch the ball pretty well.
He might be bigger than Nias.
Yeah.
Taller.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean,
what he doesn't have is Nias' physicality, but he does have a little bit more, like in him, right? He's faster for sure, and you know, he's a smoother runner. He's got a little, you know, Anais was pretty shifty. It's hard to say that he didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, and nice pretty quick too. But you get this guy out in where he's out in the open.
But I agree with you. Yeah,
He's gonna be. I mean,
line him up in the slot. How about doing bring him in on a little sweep action, hand him the ball, fake it to him, maybe get him out, fake it to him, and then maybe throw it out to him. Some different things like that, right? I mean, to where you're creating space for him. He's not ready to be your in the box running back yet. He's not physical enough. I don't think.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we got all summer long, right? I mean, to get to that point, because you're gonna need both of them anyway. I mean, at this point, so one gets 60% of the carries, one gets 40. Who really gives a who really cares? You need both those guys to step up. If we have one step up and the other doesn't, then we're not doing ourselves any good anyway. And then you got Daniels, I think, is good.
All around, he can do whatever you ask him.
Yeah, yep.
And so he can spell Moss on early downs when you need him to, or he can spell Owens on passing downs if you need him to. Not that Moss can't be a passing down guy. By the way, he made a nice play in the passing game the other day, real nice. So, he's showing a lot of different things, but I was super impressed, super impressed with him and the way he played. And, like I said, Owens had the one big run, but that's his game. It's a big play, explosive, big play, right? That's his game.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on Maroon White Game? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anybody we didn't mention, maybe?
I think I had some notes over here. I think we hit most of it. Oh, you did. Yeah, no, I think we hit most of it.
All right, questions from the tailgate. The first one, biggest surprise from the Maroon and White game. Let's do this offense and defense. Bill, I'm going to let you go first. Offense, biggest player on offense, biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise? Can I say Scourton?
He doesn't play offense.
Oh, dang it.
He's from Brian.
Huh?
He is from Brian, though.
He is from Brian. Oh, man. I'm going to have to say I was surprised that Tees didn't have as much going on. But I was actually surprised. I thought Allen held his own out there, especially for kind of being the only – I shouldn't say the only receiver on that team, but, I thought he held his own. So I was a little surprised by his abilities.
Pleasantly surprised by Allen's production for sure. Obviously, mine is Reed, right? Like, there's no – I don't have to say anything else. Look, man, I've said enough, dude. I was so surprised. And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised because he's done it before. And, but to me, he was on the same team as Jalen Henderson. And that offense moved every time Reed was on the field and moved less when Jalen Henderson was on the field. And they had the same teammates. And they were playing against the same defense. And I think that tells you everything you need to know, in my opinion. I was super surprised. Defensively, who stood out to you? Who were you surprised by? Surprised.
Oh, man. I thought, probably Rodas Johnson. I would say play, just a guy that just came out of nowhere to me. He wasn't on my radar, did well. And I'm just trying not to say Scourton at this point.
If you didn't really know what was going on with Nic Scourton, then he's the guy, right? Yeah. Now, he did lead the Big Ten in sacks, so maybe we should have expected something from him.
Yeah.
But he's a fine answer if you'd like to use him for sure. Yeah. Obviously not a guy that's been on the roster, so maybe you can call it a surprise that way. I agree with you, Rodas. I'm going to put one guy in the secondary that surprised me as well. I was really impressed with BJ Mays, man. I hadn't really talked a ton about him as a transfer coming in the mix and all that stuff. And I thought he played really well, made some plays on the ball. And so I was pretty pleasantly surprised by what he brought to the table. Question number 2 today from the tailgate, potential portal losses. And to start offensively, anybody that you think could be leaving. Now,
Do I have to just pick one?
No, if you got several of them, throw them out there.
I mean, we kind of we hinted to it a little bit, Jalen or Reed, right? Um, you know,
Yeah, I think Jalen Henderson's the guy I probably would mention. Today the rumor
Yeah.
came out with Bryce Foster and
great. By the way, that's fine for me. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad that look, he might win a national championship in track, and I'm happy to have him there, but I'm not
sure. Yeah.
I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about where this football team's going without Bryce Foster. Yeah, I think it's Jalen Henderson, man. I think it's Jalen Henderson. If he didn't see the writing on the wall on Saturday, man, maybe he should have. And so I don't hope he leaves, but for his sake, in order for him to get playing time, I think he probably should. So, like I said, I like the guy. I think if he wants to stay, stick around, man, we can use him. He's a guy that's a good teammate. He's good in the locker room, all those things. So as you know, I would always want him to be an Aggie, but if I'm looking out for his football career, I'm leaving. I'm leaving because he can go start at several different places, including probably Auburn right now. Now he can't transfer inside the SEC right now.
Yeah, that's what kind of gets him
there.
there.
Of the SEC.
Yeah,
but
where would he go?
I think
where would he go though? That's the thing is like where would he go outside the SEC that needs him?
I mean, look, there's always places you can go compete today for sure. I haven't thought about that list right now, but there's no question that around the country there's teams that need quarterbacks, and he can play.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And if I were him, I'd go find a place where I can go play right now because he can't.
What are you gonna do with his Reed instead of Jalen? Are you gonna lose? Are you gonna lose it?
Huh?
What are you gonna do when it's Reed not Henderson? Are you gonna lose your mind?
If Marcel Reed hits the transfer portal, I'm gonna start rooting for the team he plays for. I'm kidding. All right. So defensively, anybody that you're worried may hit the transfer portal there?
Well, you convinced me of Kerr earlier. Honestly, there may be a couple people there. I feel like a lot of what we've lost a lot of those. I think the guys that decided to leave have already left, and there may be one or two guys that may make an impact, but not a huge impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right.
My worry is a couple of these guys are actually leave career ending. They just can't get right from an injury and actually just have to leave the sport altogether.
Bobby Taylor looks like he's leaving.
Oh, does he?
At cornerback, which is he's a big time Aggie. It looks like he's not leaving A&M. It looks like he might be leaving football. And you don't know exactly where that ends up or what ends up happening with that. He did get a little playing time on Saturday. But he's a guy that was a leader of that 22 class as far as bringing guys in and, big time Aggie. Huge fan I am of Bobby Taylor. I've always, hoped that he got the time and the ability to get out there on the field. And, he was hindered by some injuries early on in his career. And, right now he's just lost in this mix. And so whatever it is, man, I hope things go well for him. I have a lot of respect for the dude. I think he, if he's healthy, I think he can be a player somewhere. So, I'm rooting for Bob Taylor, man. 100%. I'll tell you a couple of guys that I'm sort of worried about. You mentioned Kerr. I kind of think Brownlow Dindy. Who's been hurt pretty much ever since he's been on campus. He showed up with all the hype with 5-star and all this stuff at defensive line, defensive tackle, and he just hasn't lived up to those expectations. And now he's lost in the mix, right? He's behind guys like DJ Hicks, who's a class younger. He's behind, guys like clearly Shamar Turner and Nic Scourton and, Rodus Johnson and Albert Regis. And so he's down the ways in that depth chart. Even a guy like Samu's getting in there and getting reps, and he's sitting on the sideline. So, you know, it may be a situation where maybe he just needs a change of scenery to try to see if he can get himself healthy and out on the field. If he sticks around, that's great. I just don't expect much from him this year. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he left. And then Martrell Harris, man, we're not hearing much about Martrell Harris. He's didn't participate here in the spring, I don't think. We didn't really see him out there at all. So, you know, it's a guy that as a freshman, I was really impressed with some of the athleticism and things that he brought to the table there because of the fact that, you know, he was able to rush off the end and make plays that way. And last year he kind of disappeared in the mix, and it looked like, you know, the coaching staff really kind of lost faith in him and didn't put him out there, and, you know, partially due to injury. But we'll see if he can get himself back in the mix, you know, or if he decides to go somewhere else. So those are a couple names.
Yeah. To your point, Bobby Taylor will be just a loss in the locker room, right? I mean, just a good Aggie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Phil, why don't you tell everybody what we're doing for the next couple of weeks?
Oh man, yeah, we're going to man, I had it up a second ago. So we're going to Europe. We're going a lot of different places. So what is it, like Switzerland? I don't even know, man. We're going to Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Paris.
Yeah, Zurich, Frankfurt, Paris, Champagne, Ghent, Amsterdam, back to Ghent. 2 weeks in
Brussels.
Europe, leaving Friday, right?
Yeah, it's
So
gonna be great.
let everybody know we're going to be taking a 2-week hiatus from the pod. And then we'll be back after that. Looking forward to the summer term here with these guys and try to, you know, put together some prognostications for the 2024 season.
All right, man.
Enjoyed it. Hopefully y'all did. Later on, Phil.